Riots are breaking out in China. What has the CCP done now? Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Once again, there's been a riot in China, with as typical a response from the Chinese Communist Party as you could possibly get. Last week, a number of protesters gathered in front of this building in the city of Linyi. And because the CCP isn't a big fan of large crowds, they were almost immediately joined by the police. And I mean a lot of police. You couldn't even go to the nearby playground in peace without bumping shoulders with a dozen of them. I've heard about a slide into authoritarianism, but never next to actual slides. The police formed a human wall to block protesters from entering the building, used water guns on the crowd, and pushed a man down. It's like they learned from that playground bully. At one point, the protesters started throwing rocks at the building. The police scattered to avoid getting hit, and protesters stormed the building. It didn't take long for the police to regain control. They pepper sprayed their way in, stormed in like the Kool-Aid Man, and clashed with protesters inside. Given their schoolyard bully tactics, thank goodness no one got purple-nurpled. Chinese authorities rounded up and arrested the protesters, and it seems like they're also censoring the story, because they're as consistent as they are persistent. But why? What is this building? Why all the police? Is this some nefarious CCP government agency bent on oppressing the Chinese people? Well, no. Actually, it's the headquarters for a business called Shupai Ego. And those people are its customers. So what happened? Well, let's just back up a tad. Shupai was founded by Wang Shaoqing, a representative of the 17th Linyi Municipal People's Congress, a visiting professor at Linyi University, and a recipient of the National Patriotic Award. So what does it do? Well, early on, the company was heralded as a pioneer of entrepreneurial change in the digital age that abides by the policies and guidelines of the Chinese Communist Party and the government. Well, that's the first red flag. As always, this one. It was even featured on a CCTV special program on the digital economy, where the state-run media claimed that Shupai had universal praise from the public. Yeah, that aged great. The company got public endorsements from Linyi government officials and even the Ministry of Public Security. But, what does it do? Apparently, it was a key digital economic project that collaborated with the local government and Linyi University to build a digital industrial park. Okay, so what does it do? Well, aside from reportedly empowering physical stores with digital technology, Shupai promises customers that they could earn money by spending money through things like shopping rebates and profit sharing. What? Well, in other words, all customers had to do was load up their Shupai app with cash and then earn cash by buying stuff and referring others. The platform claimed annualized returns of up to 200%. Oh, it's a Ponzi scheme. It's a Ponzi scheme, which is what Chinese netizens started calling it, despite all the nice things the government was saying about it. So the Linyi municipal government responded to concerns by releasing this document, which said that authorities had looked into scam allegations and concluded that Shupai was not involved in telecom fraud, illegal fundraising, or pyramid schemes. So that's it. Nothing to see here. Shupai is totally legit. You're guaranteed to make loads of cash. You'd have to be a stupid, idiotic, fine print reading, fiscally conservative, not wanting to leap before you look moron not to throw your life savings at this. But then, recently, this letter went viral. It says, Shupai is being investigated for potentially operating a pyramid scheme. It also says that if the pyramid scheme charge is proven true, all participating companies and users may be criminally held liable. Sounds like the local communist officials may have been lying. Communism is a pyramid scheme. The guys who get in first kill everybody and take their stuff. But the letter also put restrictions on withdrawing cash from the app, and surely enough, people started to report that they couldn't get their cash out. There's also this letter, allegedly from Wang, trolling his followers. It says, "Hello everyone, I'm Wang Xiaoqing, the founder of Shupai. I'm already abroad now. Everyone's IQ is as low as their wealth. That's why my IQ is 190. No one knows for certain if those letters were legit, but it kinda doesn't matter. People got mad anyway. More than 40,000 people had joined this company's program, with some of them reportedly losing their entire life savings. One user later reported that Shupai went bankrupt. Well, they really were a great representative of the CCP. And now, with protests erupting in Linyi, the story is getting buried deeper than King Tut. NTD reports that many videos and posts related to Shupai have been deleted on Douyin and Weibo. In fact, while researching this topic, I myself noticed that many Chinese articles about the scandal started displaying errors just hours after publication. What, they published these things on Snapchat? Of course, this isn't the first time this kind of thing has happened. Unfortunately, Ponzi schemes and other financial scams like this are very common in China, and so are protests over them. Back in 2022, 4 rural banks engaged in a Ponzi-like scheme and ignited protests after they froze and transferred their victims' funds. The authorities, of course, responded as good civic servants should. They beat up the protesters. In 2018, there was the funding platform Qbao.com, a state media darling that collapsed after raising around $11 billion. The authorities responded by carrying away protesters. The year before that, there was the online lender Ezubao. It gained credibility from Chinese state media and took $7.6 billion from its victims. Starting to think maybe this wouldn't happen as often if the authorities punished the actual criminals instead of going after protesters. The pattern is always the same. A company lures customers in with promises of massive returns, only to collapse and rip billions off of their life savings. This is because, thanks to China's communist state-planned economy, there's very little for people to actually invest their money in. Sometimes the scammers get away with it, and sometimes that's thanks to positive Chinese media coverage, which is why, as always, you should trust Chinese state media about as much as you trust the tap water in Tijuana. In fact, the real estate sector crisis in China is thanks to companies like Evergrande acting like Ponzi schemes, with money used to endlessly build new buildings rather than completing the apartments people actually paid for. But it's not just these companies that do Ponzi schemes in China. The CCP itself is just one big Ponzi scheme. Think about it. The CCP promises massive returns to investors, but it often delivers poor quality and misuses resources for things like corruption, infrastructure that crumbles, and useless show purchases. The CCP is totally an MLM, Marxist-Leninist moochers. They prioritize political power over true economic stability. Indeed, China as we know it couldn't have survived or much less grown to be as powerful as it is without foreign money constantly being injected into its economic lifeblood, which is its own Ponzi scheme. And just like the collapse of these scammers, the CCP is facing collapse from the weight of its ridiculously high debt and its unprofitable projects like its overproduction of EVs. And finally, if you're a businessman who wants to take your hard-earned money and manufacturing capabilities out of China, chances are the CCP won't let you make a withdrawal. The CCP hates that I bring this up, and apparently so does YouTube. So, if you haven't, click this button to support us on ChinaUncensored.tv. Don't worry, we're not scammers trying to rob you out of billions, just trying to give you exclusive, in-depth China coverage you won't see anywhere else. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.